Jewish calendar. Today is the Hilula of Rabbenu Ha'ari, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, Zechuto Yagen Alenu, Be'al Kol Yisrael Achenu, Amen. The great rabbi really does not need my introduction. Rabbenu Ha'ari, it's very much the way the youth calls influencer. Have you heard of that word? You may be malach, so maybe you don't know what that means. A mashpia, an influencer in the way of our prayers, in the way of our mitzvot that we do, adding a Kabbalistic touch to our spiritual way of life. Rabbi Yosef Galimidi Ashkenazi is a very interesting question about his background. We know that he lived in Egypt, but his last name was Ashkenazi. He was the nephew of and adopted upon the passing of his father at a very young age, by his uncle, Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi. Who was Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi? Rabbi Bezalel Ashkenazi was the author of a mandatory book in the yeshivot and kolelim known as Shita Mekubetzet. So if you are in the yeshiva world and in the kolel world, Shita Mekubetzet, it's like no-brainer that is part of learning. And the author was actually the Arizal's father's brother, his uncle. When his father passed away, he adopted him, and we know the rest of the story. Some of you were here this Shabbat when we spoke about the great Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the author of the Tomer Devora, that prior to his passing, the Talmidim asked the great Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who is going to become the leader of the selected or elite group of Hachamim and Mekubalim in the golden era of the city of Tzfat? And his answer was, do not worry, when that person will appear, you will know that he's going to be my successor. So what happened? Rabbi Moshe Cordovero passed away, alav shalom, and on the Erev Rosh Chodesh Menachem, I think the 29th day, I believe, of Tammuz, and the day of his passing, the students were discussing where to bury Rabbi Moshe Cordovero. And Rabbenu Ha'ari was there, and he says to the students, why are you heading that way to bury the great teacher? You should go that direction. So they asked him, why? They didn't have a GPS tracker. You know what he said to them? Don't you see the pillar of fire on that location? They look, we don't. He says, you don't, but I do. Bury him there. And that's where the Rabbi Moshe Cordovero is buried till today. If you go to the cemetery of Sfat, you remember the site. You have Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Rabbenu Ha'ari, Rabbi Yosef Karo a couple of feet away, Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich a couple of feet away, the Rabbenu Shlomo Levi Al-Kabetz, the author of the Lecha Dodi, buried next to Rabbenu Ha'ari, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero right there, literally next grave in front, right? And then you have Rabbi Eliezer Askari to the left, which is the author of Sefer Haredim. Now, Rabbeinu Ari lived a very short life. He was born in the year 1534, right after the Inquisition, and passed away in the year 1572. Very, not even, 38 years? 38 years. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero also passed away very young. Rabbi Nachman also very young. Certain Tzaddikim is a great question. I don't have an answer. Maybe you may say, oh, because the tikkun has been fulfilled. I don't have the knowledge to say such a thing, or the power to say such a thing. But believe me, their short life may have been short in the amount of years in this world, but the achievements and the revelation of the profound esoteric and Kabbalistic perspective of Torah, Rabbeinu Hari brought them to the eye of the world. And all these tzaddikim that I just mentioned, you know, they say about Rabbi Israel Najara, which was a student of Rabbeinu Hari. Rabbi Israel Najara was the one that composed the famous song Ka Ribon Alam, and different congregations they sing it. Ka Ribon Alam Be'al Maya. Okay? It says that the level of singing of Rabbi Israel Najara was so powerful that Malachim will listen to his singing. Look at the Peleioes when he talks about the power of music. About all these tzaddikim that I mentioned, there is a song made up, which is the proper tune for this week. I mean, this Shabbat actually, we're going to have Makam Hijaz. Makam Hijaz is the Makam that is related to unfortunate moments in the calendar. For example, Shabbat before Tisha B'Av, Makam Hijaz. Shabbat Perasha Shelach Lecha, Makam Hijaz. Perashat Vayhi, the passing of Yaakov Avinu, Makam Hijaz. Perashat Haye Sara, the passing of Sara Imenu, Makam Hijaz. It's a Makam that has a certain level of sadness. I personally love Makam Hijaz, because even though the message it's unhappy, but the tunes, I'll give you a free sample. I'm not switching careers, but I'm going to give you just a few songs that we know that are connected to Makam Hijaz. The first one connected to Rabbeinu Hari, El Galil. El Galil, El Galil, El Galil. That, you know that song? That talks about Arach Shulhan Le'ami Yosefu Nezer Tifarti. That's paragraph about Rabbeinu Yosef Karo. Arach Shulhan Le'ami. He spread the table to my nation. Yosef Karo, Nezer Tifarti, the crown of Hashem. Shelomo. There is another one. Moshe Darshan Ve'anav. That's Rabbeinu Moshe Al-Shich. It's also in the song. Shelomo. There is a sentence. I apologize. I don't know the full. I don't want to start singing. If I start singing the song, I'll give you the full version. But somebody's going to bring now the book of Bakashot. And so this song has Rabbeinu Hari, Rabbeinu Shlomo Levi Alkabetz, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich. Those giant tzaddikim, who was the Ari Shebahabura? Thank you. מצאת, תמצא לי את זה. תודה. Who was the lion of the group? Rabbeinu Hari. Rabbi Yosef Karo will answer halachic questions. Rabbi Moshe Al-Shich will give the rashot. Rabbi Yosef Shlomo Levi Al-Kabetz will be the singer, the hazan. And Rabbeinu Ari was the coach of all of the above. That was the greatness of Rabbeinu Ha'ari. Then you have another song connected to that makam, Tzurmi Shelo Achalnu. Tzurmi Shelo Achalnu. Da, 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 da. That's makam Hijaz also. Then you have another one, Cuando el rey Nimrod al campo salía, that's makam Hijaz. I don't want to guarantee you because I'm not a prophet. But come Shabbat morning, I remember these three tunes. Probably will be more because our Hazan Ben Porat Yosef knows much more than me in this topic. But let's go back a few minutes to Rabbeinu Ha'ari. Maybe I'll do a biography. So it says Rabbeinu Ishaq Luria actually was born in the city of Jerusalem. And he was very young when his father passed away. And eventually Rabbeinu Ari settles in the city of Sfat. That was a very holy city, which is still today. But there is a reason why certain tzaddikim gravitated to the city of Sfat. One of the opinion is because the city of Sfat is in the northern part of Eretz Israel. And in the northern part of Eretz Israel, there are many enemies of Am Israel. Se pasuk in the Navi, Misafon tipata hara'a al kol yoshevei ha'aretz. From the north, before Mashiach's arrival, the north will be challenging for the Jewish people. It's happening in front of us. So the presence of tzaddikim in a city, even after they leave the world, they create like a shemirah, a shield to the city. So he was born in Yerushalayim, Ira Kodesh. His father was Rabbeinu Shlomo Luria Ashkenazi, and he had encounters, his father actually, with Eliyahu Navi. That's what the Shivchei Ari writes, written by the Ben Ish Hai. And it says the following: when Rabbeinu Ha'ari was born, Eliyahu Navi met his father, Rabbi Shlomo, and he said to him, when the day of the Berit Milah will be coming, do not do the Berit Milah until you see me at the synagogue. Now let me ask you a question. Imagine somebody comes to you and it says, I'm Eliyahu Navi. You're going to do the Milah to your son. Wait till you see me. Now your question will be, it says that it came the day of the Berit Milah, and they, thank you so much, and they brought the baby to be circumcised. And Rabbi Shlomo, the father of Rabbeinu Ari, is looking left and right and doesn't see Eliyahu Navi. Now the Mohel is there, the Sandak is there, all the Kahal Kadosh is there, and they ask him, what are you waiting for? Everybody's here. They didn't have photographers back then. Okay? It says they ask him, and he did not answer. He had waited till Eliyahu Navi arrived. When he arrived to the Berit Milah, he said to his father, to the baby's father, Rabbi Shlomo, sit on the chair of the Sandak, and I'm going to be with you. But no one saw what was going on. No one around. It says, Rak Aviv Levado. Only the father of Rabbeinu Ari saw and understood what was going on. And Eliyahu Navi says after the Berit Milah, do not worry, your son will be a great luminary for Am Israel and the entire world. Couple of years later, Rabbeinu Ari's father passed away, and obviously the father passed away. The family relocated to Egypt, and there where he developed the great level of Torah learning. He married actually his cousin, and he learned Torah, as I said before, the Shita Mekubeset, and he will go into Hitbodedut to learn Torah with great sanctity and holiness. And obviously, Eliyahu Navi was one of the Habrutot of Rabbeinu Ha'ari, and Eliyahu Navi tells them, your mission is in the city of Sfat, and it says that develop a great relationship with the Marhu. Marhu is the short nickname for Rabbeinu Haim Vital. Rabbeinu Haim Vital is one of the foremost and known students of Rabbeinu Ha'ari that brought up to the world a lot of the writings of Rabbeinu Ha'ari. Concerning Rabbeinu Haim Vital, there are two versions where Rabbeinu Haim Vital is buried. One opinion says Damascus in Damascus, Syria. Other opinion says he's buried in Kiryat Malachi, in the south, next to Ashkelon, next to Netivot, 20 miles from Gaza. You know Gaza? Okay, leave Gaza, go straight, make a right at the corner, you're going to get to Kiryat Malachi. No, you get there. Yeah. Not yet. I have to go. There is Kevarim to visit in Gaza. True. You know, the Bisel Najara, the one that I told you about the song, Ya Ribon Alam Be'almaya, he lived in Gaza. He was the Hacham Bashi of Gaza. There are Kivrei Sadikim in Gaza, by the way. Sure. I didn't go there. Maybe this time when I go, I'll try to go. I was told that there is a tour. They take you to a certain area, and many people go there to do tefillah. You see only the symbols on the ground. There are no burials of the massacre, but people go and they give you a tour, and people pray because it's a place of Kedoshim, like in Uman. Remember the story why Reb Nachman said, bury me in Uman? Why is he buried in Uman? Because Uman was a city that had thousands of Yehudim, and they were massacred, and they all buried, mass burial in one particular location. And he says, I want to be next to the Kedoshim. It's too deep for us to understand what that means. It's like they asked Rabbi Auerbach, alav shalom, and they asked him, why don't you go travel to Kivrei Sadikim? You know that story? Why don't you travel? You know, you open Jewish papers, they tell you, we're going to go to this city, we're going to visit this Sadik, this kever. He says, why are you schlepping all the way there? Go to Mount Herzl, where soldiers are buried, and pray there. That was the great Rabbi Auerbach, alav shalom, who said, these are people who fall defending the land of Israel. It doesn't get higher Gan Eden, so to speak. Obviously, he understands what he's saying. Okay, so there is a concept of Tzaddikim wanting to be buried in places of Kedoshim. So thank you for bringing me the song book. And I said, Arach Shulchan Le'ami, I said that already. Samach Le'am, Simach Le'am Beshirav. He brought joy to the nation with his songs. Lecha Dodi Lire'av. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. Lecha Dodi Li'ik. For those who like that tune. Okay. Tiken Shelomo. Wrote it by Rabbeinu Shlomo Levi Alkabetz. The fourth one is Ara Ari Begurav. A lion came up. Moshe Darshan Be'anav. Moshe, maybe Moshe al-Sheikh, that was the speaker and humble. Ashrei Hador Hazab Panav. Great is the merit of the generation that met them. So this is the song of Makam Hijaz. Let's go back a minute. So, Rabbeinu Ari developed also Perishut. Perishut is not simple. You have Irat Shamayim, you have Kedusha, you have Tahara, you have Perishut. What's the meaning of Perishut? Perishut literally means separation. You separate yourself from the luxury of life. There is basic life, right? Nicer, and then there is luxury. So Rabbeinu Ari stayed away from luxury. In other words, is your question if Rabbeinu Ari ate rib steak? I'm not sure that Rabbeinu Ari ate meat for Kabbalistic reasons, for kashrut reasons. Sure, of course. Well, maybe if he slaughtered himself, but he will say, why should I do it? Okay, he needed halak bet Yosef. He lived in the time of Rabino Yosef Karo. But I'm talking about there were tzaddikim that when the Mishnah writes, Pad b'melach tochal, bread and salt should be your daily food. Some tzaddikim live like this, not because of poverty, because for them the essence of food, it wasn't like desperation. Sometimes you see it. You have a nice breakfast, how people jump to the sambusak. True. Or Shabbat morning, the maza, kibbe, lahmajin, the nuggets, whatever they have. You see people are jumping. No, of course they want to eat Leshem Shamayim. They don't want to interrupt too much time between the Kiddush and the Beracha. I know they do all that Leshem Shamayim. But there are those that are mahmir. They walk around with 3 plates. I say, what is the 3 matzot of Pesach? Kohen, Levi, Israel, Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov. I think you should have 4 because 4 mothers, or 5 Homashim, or 6 Mishnayot, or 10 commandments. Hazakov, thank you for that. Or 8 candles of Hanukkah. True story. I see it. Baruch Hashem, not with that level of exaggeration, but you see that there are those who are the first in front of the tray of the kibbeh. I was about to ask the other one, you did not come in first to the minyan. You walked in the middle of the Hazara. Where were you? Maybe he needed to go to the bathroom before praying. That's why he came late. You like that? Maybe he was helping his wife. Maybe he was taking care of the kids. Of course. Sadiq. Maybe he stayed up all night learning. Who knows? But on a more serious note, Sadiqim, they didn't gravitate to luxury. They lived Benoni, middle of the road, neither extreme, but even Benoni. And again, I'm only telling you based on what I understand from here. It says here a couple of things. Listen to this. Rabbeinu Ha'ari. Everything is a divine providence. What did I just said? Luxury, right? He didn't gravitate towards luxury. So it says, I learned, says Rabbeinu Chaim Vital, I learned from my teacher that for him, food was basic. היה אוכל דבר מועט. Simple. היה מתלבש בגדים רגילים. He dressed normal. Nothing exorbitant. The other day I saw somebody and I said to him as a joke, you don't own clothing? He looked at me and said, what do you mean, Rabbi? I said to him, I'm looking at you. One teacher has a label. The shirt has a label. The pants have another label. Your shoes have another label. Your watch has another label. Right? You're more labeled than clothing. He laughed. He said, yeah, I like it. Rabbeinu Ari, the opposite. But listen to this, and the ladies will love this. When it came to his wife, היה מאוד זהיר לכבדה ולהלבישה. It says, Rabbeinu Ari, when it came to his wife, said, what do you like? Maybe for his standards, there was no need to buy that type of garment. But for his wife, whatever she likes, she takes. And it says, afilu, even when things may have not been the ideal for Rabbeinu Ari money-wise, nevertheless, he says, I'm honoring my wife. Sa Gemara, actually. I'm honoring my wife. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of it. Unbelievable level. Now, it says as follows. Rabbeinu Ari used to visit people who were not doing well health-wise, and used to go to them. And Rabbeinu Ari, and again, I understand it, I believe it. Maybe I should have said first, I believe it. I don't really understand it. But I believe it. I believe it. And it says that Tiferet Shelomo, that Rabbeinu Ari used to go to visit people in their home and will give each patient a custom-made pathway of teshuvah for them to do their tikkun in this world. I don't know too many hachamim that can do that. Custom-made pathway of teshuvah. If you come to any rabbi, what a rabbi will tell you, Shabbat, Kashrut, Mikveh, etc. Rabbeinu Ari selected what was essential for the neshama of that person. Unbelievable. Rabbeinu Ari established part of our prayers. The Siddur, the Sephardic Siddur, especially the Chabad Siddur and Hasidim Siddur, is based on Nusa Ha'ari. Hari coordinated the Siddur. We had the Siddur, that's why it's called Siddur. The Tefillah comes already from Anshe Knesset HaGedolah. But somebody put the Siddur together. But the order of the Siddur, it also has to do a lot with the Kabbalistic aspect of prayer. I'll throw in one code. Abiyah. That's the code of Tefillah. Let me put it in writing. Abiyah. Atzilut, Beria, Yesira, Asiya. That's how the prayer is built. Atzilut, Beria, Yetzira, Asiya. This is the lowest. This is the highest. This is the Amida. Atzilut is the Amida. Asiya is Korbanot till Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar, second level. Yotzer, third level. Amida, highest level. So Tefillah basically starts here. Chaim Tovim. So this is how the Tefillah is. You start at the bottom of the mountain, Korbanot. You reach certain level, Kaddish. Kaddish is the elevator to the next level. Then you need the next level. You need another Kaddish. That's between Ishtabach and Yotzer. Once you reach here, you're right on top of the mountain. That's why there is no Amid Kaddish between Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Israel Amonai Sefatai Tiftach. That's why the Lakha says, once you say Baruch Atah Hashem Ga'al Israel, you go straight into the Amidah and you kiss the tefillin of the head only, because the tefillin of the head is connected to Shamayim. The tefillin of the arm is connected to the planet Earth, because what part is the planet Earth? These three parts. This is Beria, Yetzira, Asiya. You have the creation, you have the formation, and you have the world of materialistic elements. These are connected to the tefillin shel yad, because the hand is the action. Tefillin of the head is atzilut, right here, pointing up to Shamayim. Tefillin are called pe'er. This is based on Rabbeinu Ari. You understand? Segments of the prayers. Rabbeinu Ari gave you the full order with certain tweaks. For example, Hachamim from Ashkenaz, Hachamim from Europe, for example, they have not 80% like the prayers that we have, but they have certain differences. For example, Nusach Ashkenaz Sidur, and check it out, don't confuse yourself. You have Nusach Sfard and Nusach Ashkenaz. Sfard is also Ashkenazi, but for Sephardim, we say Sephardim, Ashkenazim. In the Ashkenazic world, you have Nusach Ashkenaz, that probably is Germany, Holland, maybe France, a bit, and British Empire. That's potential Nusach Ashkenaz. Then you have Nusach Sfard. That means Yehudim that left the Inquisition, escaped from Spain, and instead of going to the Middle Eastern countries, they went to Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, all these places. Hence they call Sepharad. Okay, Sepharad. So the Nusach Sepharad of the Ashkenazim, it's very close to the Nusach Sepharadi. You have Korbanot, Hashem Melech, Baruch She'amar, Yehi Chevod, Ashre, etc. In the Nusach Ashkenaz, Baruch She'amar is before Hodu. And when Tefillah finish, it finishes Uba LeSion, Kol HaMyachalim LaHashem, Kaddish, Alenu LeShabeach. After that, they say Shir Shel Yom, Kaddish, and that's the end of the prayer. They don't have the Ketoret at the end of the prayers like we have. So there was something, but when was it structured properly? Through Rabbeinu Ha'ari. So what did Rabbeinu Ari do? He added one paragraph in the tefillah. You know what this paragraph is? הריני מקבל עליי מצוות עשה אשר ואהבת לרעך כמוך. והריני אוהב כל אחד ואחד מישראל. That paragraph was added by Rabbeinu Ari. What does it mean? I hereby take upon myself the positive commandment of the Torah to love every Jew like I love myself. You know why Rabbeinu Ari put that sentence in the beginning of the prayer? Because if you don't love the Jewish people, where do you think your prayers will reach? Nowhere. So the first thing he says is start the prayer with a positive concept. I love everyone. It's easier said than done. But today we're discussing Rabbeinu Ari, so that's what we do. One more thing. Talks about perishut. Remember I mentioned before separation from the physical materialistic matters? You know what they say about Rabbeinu Ari? That the day that he achieves, he will not eat meat. 24 hours. Why? No need. For us, no need. For Rabbeinu Ari, meat and dairy are two different Kabbalistic powers. The milk being better than the meat. The dairy connects to Hesed, and the meat connects to Gevura, Din. Sure. The milk is white. The white is purity. Tahara. Holiness. You don't kill the cow to have milk. You help the cow. When you milk the cow, you're doing Hesed. You help the animal. When you eat meat, what happens? Shahita. Knife. Blood. Purifying. That's why you cannot mix meat and dairy, because you're mixing Hesed and Gevura, the Ben Ish Chai explains. Obviously, it's a hok from the Torah, but Rabbeinu Ari went the extra mile. If I have dairy today, no meat tomorrow, till tomorrow. Again, I clarify, don't stop eating meat. You're not Rabbeinu Ari. Eat meat, not this week. This week is the 9 days. But Shabbat Kodesh comes, eat meat, enjoy yourself. But again, I think that this is sharing with us ideas of perishut. Perishut. Sometimes people are very, how do I say this, materialistic. And if something is not a certain level, is not good enough, and although some may be able to afford it, many cannot afford it, and many force themselves to have it because they want to keep up with others. That's a recipe for disaster financially. But the biggest challenge that I see is the way we raise our children. Sometimes a person raises their children to a certain luxurious lifestyle when they really cannot. What a lesson or what example you're giving to your child. That's something that we can definitely learn from the way Rabbeinu Ari teaches us. Rabbeinu Ari talks about also the concept of the mikveh, the famous mikveh of Rabbeinu Ari. If you ever went to Sfat, on top of the mountain, you went there, it's freezing cold. Guaranteed you do teshuvah when you go to that mikveh. Because when you come out alive, it's a tehiyat metim. Yes, the mikveh Rabbeinu Ari. Yes, the mikveh Rabbeinu Ari. You go there to the mikveh, then you go visit Kivrei Tzaddikim. That's usually the way I do it. Bring your towel, please. Okay? because I'm not sure if they have towels there, but it's definitely, I don't think they have. But the other day I was there, I mean, going back a couple of years back, and there was a fellow offering towels. Very nice, very nice. I brought my own because I didn't know what to expect. But Bekitsur, Rabbeinu Ari was a very holy person who truly developed a level of Kedusha and Irat Shamayim that is not common. I will tell you, Rabbeinu Ari was one of a kind. Rabbi Moshe Cordovero was one of a kind. All the tzaddikim that we mentioned today in the class, they were mega stars, and at least by us reading about them and learning about them, maybe something of their kedusha sticks to our life. You know, it's like I was reading to somebody earlier an interesting statement in the name of the Baal Shem Tov. It says that even in food, when it comes to food, which is appropriate rather, based on the way Rabbeinu Ari will live, you know, one thing that we can derive from Rabbeinu Ari is that he will not make a big deal about food. There are people that do make a big deal about food. I hope it doesn't apply to none of us. But there are people who the food is not done a certain way, if the taste is not a certain way, or it's not, whatever statement you want to fill in the blanks, it's not. Rabbeinu Ari was mevater. That's what Rabbeinu Chaim Vital writes. He was vatran. He was batran. Batran means he was a very easygoing. He didn't make a big deal out of things which are not priority or primary in a person's life. So the Baal Shem Tov says that even when it comes to eating, there is an Avodat Hashem level. It says how and it's appropriate that I read this today with somebody in the early minyan because Rabbeinu Ari was that way. It says Avodat Hashem can be done also through food. Not only kashrut, which is not negotiable, not only saying the berachot before and after, but also how the person eats and how the person conduct themselves when it comes to eating and when it comes to food, which is food and wine and other matters can fall under the category known as ta'ava. Ta'ava in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, it's mentioned there, ta'ava and other places. Ta'ava in English means desire. What desire does the person have? Now, what's the problem with this? That sometimes the desire can lead the person to go above and beyond the normalcy of life, and the person suddenly gravitates to that. And by the way, desire comes in many shapes and forms. Some people have desire for food. Some people have desire of alcohol, of wine. Some people have desire of money. Some people have desire of things which are forbidden situations, forbidden relationships, or forbidden substances. And that's why the Mishnah says, Hakin'a ata'ava be'akavod mosim et ha'adam min ha'olam. It says, if you're always going to be pursuing these desires, when do you leave? You're always running. The Gemara writes the following statement, En Adam met behasid ta'avotav beyado. Literally in English means a person leaves the world with less than 50% of the desires accomplished. If your desire is Torah Nirat Shamayim, Hazako Baruch. But if your desire is greater and bigger and more expensive, etc., so when do you enjoy what do you have? My dear friends, let it be the zechut of Rabbeinu Ari gives us a better focus in our life, in prioritizing the things which are really important to our life, besides family and health, but it's actually our Avodat Hashem. Remember the words of Rabbeinu Ari, Kedusha, sanctity, tahara, purity, perishut, you know, finding the middle of the road to do things in life, especially when it comes to material matters, being happy with what we have, go the extra mile in honor of the wife. I'm sure the ladies like this last sentence. And Be'ezat Hashem, the zachut of talking about Rabbeinu Ari, the zachut of reviewing some of the highlights of Rabbeinu Ari, may he become a melitz yosher for all of Am Israel, and Be'ezat Hashem, we should have the zachut of the Geula Shelema. אמן. יהי רצון שנזכה ונחמת ציון. ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן באמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשה אומר, זה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, ירבה להם תורה מצוות שנאמר אדוני חפץ